Have you ever felt like an imposter? Have you heard of imposter syndrome? Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? This is my story. Imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people suffer from that. It's certainly not just in the neurodivergent community. There's a lot of people who just feel like they're kind of getting by and they really shouldn't be. They feel like that, they're not as good as perhaps other people think that they are, and that they're kind of winging it. Hi, my name is Michelle, and I was diagnosed with autism and ADHD at the age of 54 at the end of 2023. Since then, I've been navigating the journey of learning how to live life on the spectrum, and I've been covering different topics like how to unmask, like what it's like at work, and how I'm navigating that. I've covered a variety of subjects, and I'll link a couple of those in the description for you to have a look at. In real life, we're all winging it to a degree. When you consider, a first-time parent, they've not been a parent before, so of course they're going to be winging it. You're going to be asking other people who have gone before you, who are parents of children older than yours, how they did it, and getting ideas on that. As someone who's neurodivergent, I've done that my entire life with a variety of different topics. And the reason I've done that is because the way that I do things has not been accepted. And that's called masking. So I've worked out how things are done in a neurotypical world, and I've mimicked that. I've copied it, I've blended in so that I don't appear to be myself and who that truly is. And because of that, I do feel like that in the neurodivergent community, and please let me know in the comments if your opinion differs to mine, I believe that in the neurodivergent community there is probably a lot more imposter syndrome than there would be outside of that, simply because we've effectively been playing that game our entire lives in order to fit in. So I've described myself previously as someone who feels like I'm a square peg trying to fit myself into a round hole. And I've felt like that my entire life. I still feel like that. Some of the things that I've been going through lately with regard to my flexible work arrangement and my employer have been really, really hard. And I've considered, have I made the wrong decision as far as unmasking what I have and standing up for myself and advocating for myself? And the reason that I've kind of thought that way is because of how hard it is, and because it just feels like an incredible mountain that can't be moved. But someone had to climb Mount Everest first. And I'm certainly no pioneer, but I am someone who believes enough in myself and my abilities that I will fight for that, and fight for what I deserve, fight for what I believe is the right thing. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy or that you're looking for, please hit subscribe. Click on the bell so that you don't miss my next video upload. Another thing that a neurodivergent brain really focuses on, and that is fairness, justice, what's right. And when I'm not being treated well, or when my feelings or my needs are not being considered or understood, I will stand up for that. And it's costing me a great deal. This morning I woke up at about 4 a.m. after a total of 5 hours sleep in 48 hours. And I woke with a migraine. No surprises there. Lack of sleep will have been the major cause of that. So I got up, and thankfully I've got some medications for when I have the occasional migraine. And so I took that, but it took quite a while for that to kick in, and I can still feel it. It is being masked by the medication, thankfully, so I'm functioning, but I can still feel it. And, that's a physical side effect of all that I'm going through currently. So part of that feeling of imposter syndrome is feeling like you somehow shouldn't be in the space that you are. That's my understanding of it. And I kind of occasionally feel like that, But I think probably more as I'm getting older, and maybe it's because I'm now in my 50s and I've gone through quite a bit of life, that I just don't feel like the space I take up in the world is wrong. Unmasking has really helped me with that. And I know what my strengths are. I also know what I'm not good at. But I'm coming to understand the reasons that I'm not good at that now, because of my neurodivergence, is not a negative, is not something that makes me a flawed human or somehow a broken neurotypical. I have a different neurotype. My brain works differently. There's nothing wrong with my brain working differently, but the understanding of that in the community and in the world at large is still learning, is still growing. And across the medical professional, and I've addressed that before too, it's still learning. It wasn't until 2017 that the DSM was updated to include how differently women present with autism and ADHD. And the fact that it's taken that long to even update the DSM is absolutely ludicrous. And here we are in 2025. We've been all about inclusion, at least the word inclusion, for such a long time, but inclusion has never included different neurotypes. I heard a conversation recently where, they were talking about, hey, there were never that many people with autism around in my day. No, they were institutionalized. Anyone with a different neurotype was considered broken, and they were put into institutions to be cared for. And that wasn't even just those with higher support needs. It was those with lower support needs. As soon as you were odd, you were either ostracized or you were put away. Like, wow, we're in 2025. How have we not learned enough now to understand that there's a bunch of different varieties? Another question that came through from the community was, at what point do I tell new people about my diagnosis? That's a really good question. I'm very open about who I am. I'm very open about my neurodivergence, but I also understand that a lot of people have no clue what that means. They will have the same mindset that I had before my own diagnosis and understanding, and that is a very, very small understanding or antiquated understanding of what that actually means. So I don't usually say I'm autistic and I have ADHD, because immediately that will put me on the outer with someone who has no understanding of it. So I will usually approach that by saying something like, I'm neurodivergent, or I think differently, and then just gradually kind of increase the information as it's warranted. Whilst I am very open, I am also very guarded, and I would also describe myself as quite smart. Smart in that I don't just blab all the information, because you don't know how that's going to be received. You've kind of got to gauge and measure the room effectively before you share that kind of information. But also I'm a private person too, as much as I'm sharing my life here with you all. I am actually a fairly private person. So when I was first diagnosed, I did obviously share that with my family and with my close friends. But as far as the greater community, I didn't really share that at all. And I didn't share it because I didn't understand it myself yet. And I wanted to understand further my own diagnosis and how that affected me before I shared that more widely. I did share it at work with my leader at the time, and that was before I really had much of an understanding as to what that meant. And I did actually say that, I'm working it out, and that's going to take some time. In hindsight, should I have shared at the time? With work, yes, I believe I needed to, just simply so that they knew the journey that I was on. And I think probably more widely, the way that I shared it with friends and family was perfectly okay. The feedback that I got, actually, I was really surprised when after I got the results back and I read them correctly, so that I knew that it wasn't just the ADHD diagnosis that I first initially read, but also that I was showing high masking and that I was also autistic. When I shared that with my youngest son and his wife, my daughter-in-law said, "Oh yeah, he's definitely on the spectrum." And I was like, what? And now that I know what I know, I can absolutely see it. But I had no clue that my son was also on the spectrum. And my eldest son is also neurodivergent, differently. It's, the things you know when you know them, and the things you don't when you don't. And I guess that's kind of the measure in how I share my neurodivergence. I will measure the room first. I will figure out how that's going to be perceived before I share it, because above all, I need to protect myself. I'm certainly not going to put myself in danger or in an environment where I feel like I'm going to be negatively judged. I've been negatively judged too many times across my life to put myself back in that situation deliberately. So I'm very careful. And I would say to you, if you're newly diagnosed, just work out who your team is first before you share that information. So the people on your team, the people who are always going to be supportive of you, share it with them. But don't openly share it with other people until you know what they know about it. Maybe educate them first before you share that that's your diagnosis, because people will judge you. That's kind of nature. People are judgy, and that's unfortunate, but it's the way that it is. And people are uneducated when it comes to neurodivergence. They will think the same things that I did initially, and that is that ADHD is a young boy who's hyperactive and naughty. That's all that I thought. And that autism was a sensory thing where they had to wear headphones and sometimes can be non-verbal. They say it's a spectrum for a reason. And it's not a spectrum on a line. It's a spectrum in a circle. And if you think of it as a circle of colours, we all have a variety of different colours, and those are the experiences, those are the different symptoms that we present with, those are the different skills that we have, strengths that we have, and things that we find difficult as well. I've always found it really easy to navigate, and I'm finding out that that's an autistic thing. An ADHD thing is quite the opposite of that. And because I have both, I can often be in a conflicting mind, and that probably is part of one of the biggest battles that I have, is how my brain fights itself. That's something I'm still working out. I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you some of the great contributors to my own understanding that I've found across YouTube, and I'm going to share a couple of those in the description. Please go and check them out for yourself. Go and check out their content, because I've found it really, really helpful myself, and they're really, really great content creators and wonderful, wonderful people. If you've stuck around this long, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and please share this video with someone you think might benefit from it. The last thing I wanted to share is a big thank you to you for following my journey, for sticking with me, for watching my videos, for sharing them, for liking them, for your wonderful comments, for sharing your own journeys with me. This community is already proving to be wonderfully supportive, and I am so grateful that you are all here. I am so grateful that you have decided to join me on this journey, and I appreciate you so much. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.